If you're not getting where you need to go in a doctor's office, you're going to have to, and it's the reality of a disease that's extremely rare, you're going to have to do it yourself. When I was at Iowa State, I spent more time in the library, I think, than I did even in my genetics classes. And I just thought, well, I'm just going to start over and I'm just going to start reading about every muscle disease I can find. And I did that for a number of weeks or so, and then it was coming upon a picture of Emery-Dreifuss, is the type that I have. And it was extremely obvious. It's like looking at family members, and I was really sure that's what I had. So I approached the doctor with this, and I said, would you write this letter to Italy and introduce our family? And she wouldn't. She said I didn't have Emery-Dreifuss and wouldn't write the letter. And it was a very, very, very frustrating moment, but I was truly convinced that's what we had. So I wrote the letter myself and sent photos I took with the timer on the camera. Back in this time period, I think it was '96 when we sent the blood. It took 3 years to find that mutation. And, but it was amazing. I got the results on email, just opened it up, and it was out of 3 billion letters of code, it was 1 G changed to a C. And that just blows you away to think it's something that mild could make, you know, such a big difference. Priscilla Loebschleep would be kind of the Lolo Jones of Canada, and she won the bronze medal in the 100-meter hurdles back in the 2008 games in Beijing. And when I saw photos of Priscilla, I realized, wow, it's an incredibly, incredibly rare disorder, and it could only be right here, which is right next to where my mutation is. And to everyone else, it's like, well, that's interesting, but to a muscle biologist, that's earth-shattering. You know, how could we have 2 neighboring gene mutations? One person is running over hurdles in the Olympics, and the other person can't walk by the time they're 32. I mean, this is just an amazing, amazing find. It was difficult, you know, in terms of people believing me, because I really knew this gene backward and forward in the photos and the symptoms, and I knew 99.9% sure I know what I'm talking about. But how do you convince somebody? I'm not a doctor, I'm not a researcher, but I really do know her mutation is right next to mine. So basically, just by luck, I happened to catch David Epstein on Good Morning America, and he'd written a book called The Sports Gene, and it was about the intersection of genetics and Olympic athletes, and are they made, or is it nature versus nurture, that whole argument. And I thought, well, this is the perfect journalist possible, because he's fascinated by this topic. I'm fascinated too. Let me reach out to him. I sent him tons and tons of articles, write-ups, different things, probably for a year, because it took that long to believe, could this crazy lady, could she really be right? And I'm sure that was quite a moment where he went, well, maybe she's right. Shockingly, Priscilla agreed to meet me at a hotel lobby in Toronto, and my mom went with me, and she even said she had a few moments of kind of being nervous to do that, but then she thought, well, it's the lady that doesn't walk and her mother. I mean, how scary could they be? I just knew her like family when I saw her, and, you know, called her name, and it was just an incredible thing to see her. We both have a genetic disorder that comes down to a single letter change in our DNA in the same gene, and not only in that same gene, in almost exactly the same spot. So that's very unusual. It's such a fun story. And I think that sometimes people think, well, a story about somebody and they lost the ability to walk, would it be a tearjerker? Is it sad? Is it, you know, the last thing you're going to say is, wait, no, you really got to listen to the story because it's fun. And having a twist of fate that you almost couldn't write fiction of this kind of a story, I think that's what's really neat about the story, that it's actually true, and it's something very, very fun that would be the last thing that you would think could happen to somebody.